Well, this isn't a great birthday present from Thames Valley Police, is it? Let's be honest. Innocent or guilty, it's a massive development, and it's constitutionally potentially a crisis. I mean, this. How can the king, if Andrew were convicted, heaven forbid, for his sake, how can the king have his own brother staying at his own pleasure in a prison? So it's just it's uncharted territory.
Hello, this is Hugo Rifkind here on Times Radio. It is coming up for 4 minutes past 11. And let's return to that breaking news that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Thames Valley Police have been investigating allegations made against the former prince after the release of millions of pages of files related to the paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. He is the first senior royal in modern history to be arrested. To the best of our knowledge, he remains right now in police custody. I'm joined now by Duncan Larcombe, the former royal editor at The Sun. Duncan, good morning.
Good morning, Hugo. Hi.
Thanks very much for being with us. How far do you think we have to go back to find a precedent for this in British history?
I've been trying to rack my brains. I mean, frankly, I think this is unprecedented. It's a development that perhaps some would say was inevitable, but nonetheless, even with the inevitability of it, or potential inevitability of it, it's still a shock and something that I think plunges the royals into their biggest crisis since the death of Princess Diana.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, what in your experience and in your understanding will be happening right now in the palace? I assume it's not just people sort of running around, pulling their hair out and screaming swear words. You know, is there some system in place? Is there some sort of engine that swings into action in moments of drama like this?
Well, I mean, obviously the palace surround themselves with advisors. You wonder whether or not the king knew that this was going to happen. Stripping his brother of the title of prince back in October was perhaps a preemptive strike, knowing that the writing was on the wall for his brother in terms of investigations, not necessarily guilt. So, I mean, the palace will be in full panic mode, frankly, and will be extremely concerned by this unprecedented development.
Yeah, I mean, look, presumably they will have war-gamed it to some extent. They will have seen this kind of thing as a possibility. Can you imagine a scenario in which, I mean, we should say he's just been arrested, he hasn't been charged or anything else, but can you imagine a scenario in which the king's brother resides in one of the king's prisons?
Well, I mean, exactly. This is the very thought that he could spend time at His Majesty's pleasure when His Majesty is his brother. I mean, that just seems incomprehensible, frankly. But, you know, the allegations that he might have leaked sensitive documents and abused his role as a trade envoy are very, very serious. Nonetheless, they are extremely serious. And potentially could lead to a prison sentence.
What was Andrew's reputation as a trade envoy? Because one hears sort of passionate views of say both that he was actually quite good at it and that he was absolutely dreadful at it.
Yeah, so, it sort of depended who you had lunch with, frankly, back in the day. But I mean, I remember speaking to some people from one of the big defence companies, and they were all praising Andrew for his interest and his support. So he wasn't, you know, there were those that really did value his support, and there were those that would sing his praises. But obviously there were also people that would say, and if I'm allowed to say this, that he was very arrogant and entitled, and they didn't particularly like him.
What could I be held liable for? Surely.
Well, for a guy who says he doesn't know how to sweat, you have to think he might have been sweating quite a bit in the last few weeks. And, you know, it's simply... allegedly, it's unacceptable for somebody in such an important public role to leak information and to share information with who was a convicted paedophile.
Yeah, indeed. Look, he's of course always strenuously denied any wrongdoing. Andrew has. He's 66 today. This is quite the way for him to spend his birthday. What vision do you think he had of himself? How he'd be spending his 6th and perhaps 7th decades? Because I doubt very much it was like this. Who did he want to be?
Well, this isn't a great birthday present from Thames Valley Police, is it? Let's be honest. Innocent or guilty, it's a massive development, and it's constitutionally potentially a crisis. I mean, this. How can the king, if Andrew were convicted, heaven forbid, for his sake, how can the king have his own brother staying at his own pleasure in a prison? So it's just it's uncharted territory, and something that, frankly, I mean, I've followed this story since 2011 with Andrew's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined that it would end up with Andrew being arrested by officers en masse, turning up at his house at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just, it's jaw dropping.
Look, finally, Duncan, when it was reported last week that the king, before he was king, had been involved in the payment that went to Virginia Giuffre, the palace pushed back against that extremely quickly. But how worried are they going to be that there is some tentacle of this, some crumb of this, that does begin to drag in other royals?
I think that's the big fear for the royal family. You know, did they try and cover Andrew? Did they try and protect him? Did the late Queen try and protect her son, which is something that has actually been suggested in the last few weeks? It's a crisis. Make no mistake, it's a crisis. And this is a time when the palace will be battening down the hatches and hoping for the very best.
Yeah, look, Duncan Larcombe, former royal editor of The Sun, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.